Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for helping my project. You're truly a lifesaver. If it weren't for you, I would have broken my streak, and I'm not sure the project would continue. So thank you.
It's no problem. Take my helmet off there.
I guess what do you know about my project, and I guess what motivated you to respond?
Well, a friend of mine, you had interviewed her, and I happened to be just kind of doom scrolling on Twitter and saw that you had kind of ran out of time on your location, but it's still Tuesday here. I think that's still valid.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, we survived COVID. We survived lots of other things, and now we've survived the time zone thing. So that's great. Which one of your friends did I interview?
Jerica.
Oh, Jerica. Oh, yeah, Jim.
Yep.
That's cool. Yeah. Well, I guess you knew NASA's planning to send astronauts back to the moon.
Yeah, correct.
What do you think about it?
I think it's a good idea. We really should get a base, like a permanent base going, similar to the ISS, where we can do science, constant science in low gravity environment on the moon. You know, I'm sure there's going to be tons of mineral wealth that's up there that we can use for fuel and things like that. Also just being a waypoint for getting to Mars if needed.
That's pretty awesome. Do you think we'll actually see people on the moon this decade?
I think so. Yeah, I personally think part of the problem is that a lot of groups are kind of risk adverse. You know, especially with the incidents with the shuttles and things like that, which it's understandable, but sometimes you just have to take a risk. You have to minimize the danger as much as possible, but there's always going to be a danger. So what's that point now that we get to go to the moon? I mean, if you look at the hardware that the guys in the 60s went to the moon with, it's pretty basic, and they were able to do it. And I think that we have a lot more advanced systems. We know a lot more from the ISS and things like that for long duration missions. I think we can do it. We just have to do it. I mean, we can't, political things cause problems because, one group says, no, we should go. Another group says, no, we shouldn't go. And, and that every 4 years or 8 years, that doesn't allow that project to happen. The project needs to happen regardless of, who's in office.
Yeah, no, it's true, especially about risk being with everything. I mean, literally, people die every day in cars, but nobody goes and says, I think I'm not going to drive today because people die in cars.
Right, exactly. So that balance of risk versus reward needs to happen, and I think it's kind of maybe gone a little bit too far the other way.
And whenever you think about the future of humanity, like 100 years, 200 years from now, I mean, do you think we're still all on the Earth, or do you think we actually have like settlements and colonies throughout the solar system?
Well, maybe Mars, but I still have some things that I haven't really seen too many people talk about. One, the radiation is going to be a problem on Mars. So does everybody want to be, mole people living underground the whole time? None of the other planets I don't think are going to be very habitable. Maybe some moons, maybe what was it, Europa? But that would take a long time to get there. So I could see Mars and the moon, but short of that, maybe more space stations, and maybe more space stations not around Earth. So, let's say you have an ISS type station over Mars, and you could do all the science from the space station, or most of it, and maybe you just have excursions down to the planet and not try to live down there, or the moon, for that matter too.
And you could put these stations throughout the solar system, and maybe eventually they become self-contained, and you can actually propel one to the next star system or something. The generation shift.
Exactly. Yeah, you could, start start something around Europa, and then that, ships continue to stream to it and build up that ship, and then go out from there, or something of that nature.
So now, just to kind of turn that around, we're kind of like talking about humanity in 100, 200 years from now. What do you think people will remember about this decade in 200 years from now, if they were to look back?
Oh, this decade. Well, you'll see it that humanity is trying to get off the planet again for long term, either through Artemis or through SpaceX. That there's actually kind of, I don't want to say competition, because I'm all for space, no matter who gets us there. Or even ULA, their rockets too. So, it might be a continuation of, say, Apollo 8, where we first left the planet. When those guys, go for TLI, they left Earth. And to me, that's just a really big thing. Yeah, it was to the moon, but they left Earth. Other than the Apollo missions, everything else has been Earth-based. So once we see SpaceX and Artemis start going away from the Earth again, that will be a big moment for me again.
Right. And it's funny, Apollo 8. Whenever they went around the moon, they seemed to be more excited about Earth than the moon.
Well, that's what they said. They went to discover the moon, or they went to discover the moon, but they ended up discovering the Earth. I've gotten to meet Bill Anders and Jim Lovell, and I've heard them talk about, they went around and then they saw the Earth out of the window, and they're scrambling to get the photos and stuff like that. And I can't even imagine, you're going around this object, the moon, and it's super dark, and then you spin around this, the side of the moon, and then all you see this big blue marble off into the distance, and that's probably practically the only color you see, because the moon's just mostly grays and whites. There's a little bit of orange and stuff, but that must have just been mind-blowing to see that.
Well, I keep wondering, that first group of people that go to Mars, they're going to see something even more spectacular, and that is the Earth disappearing. I wonder what that does to a person.
It would probably be similar to going to the backside of the moon, where you can't see the Earth. But to see the Earth from Mars, it would be pretty small. So I think the point would be, you're in transit from the Earth to Mars, and let's say they flip the ship around and they point it toward Earth, and you can't pick out where Earth is. I think that would be the point that would kind of really set in, that you're going somewhere else, or the point where you can really identify Mars is ahead of you, or off to the side, because they couldn't go directly there. It has to account for Mars being in orbit and stuff like that. So I think those 2 points would be kind of interesting to be along for that ride and to have that happen.
Would you take a trip to space if you could?
Oh yeah, definitely.
How far would you go? Just like one of these suborbital things, to orbit, to the moon, to Mars?
I think I would probably go all the way to Mars if a return journey was planned. Whether it happens or not, I think that's a different story. But I would probably go all the way. But I'd love to go to. I'd love to do a suborbital, but I don't want to say I've kind of already done it. I've done a 0G flight with Go 0G, so I've got the 0G time, but I didn't have the view, because there's 2 windows plane. So I do it, to get the view. I'd love to go to the moon, even if just orbit. To land on the moon would be amazing. Mars would be quite an adventure too.
would you consider like immigrating to Mars and spending the rest of your life there, or?
I don't know. I think it would depend on what phase the construction is on Mars. Because again, I don't think I'd want to go there and necessarily be shoveling a tunnel out. I mean, running a boring machine on Mars. Now, hopefully, they have it worked out that they send automated devices to kind of set up the shop, somehow send a boring machine to just start tunneling and things like that and have everything kind of set up. I think that's the only way that it would be sustainable, is to kind of have the infrastructure already in place. But I don't know, get a flight set up for me and I'll make a decision.
I mean, very likely be managing like 1,000 Tesla bots. The Tesla bot, I guess, is called Optimus or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I send them there first, and they build everything, and then we come in afterwards.
Yeah, I still think it'll be interesting. On the zero G flight, we did Martian gravity, which I think is 1/3 of Mars or of Earth. It's going to be challenging to walk around and stuff until you get used to it. And I wonder, long-term cardiovascular issues and things like that. Kind of the same stuff you worry about when you're on the ISS. I think that'll be interesting. That if you're having to work out 5 hours a day, does that decrease your enjoyment of being there because you have to do that, especially if you're in your tunnel under the ground.
Yeah, I guess it all depends on the nature of the workout. It's like I joined the soccer team at work, and while we're playing our games, it doesn't feel like you're working out, but then you just spend like a quarter mile running, and it's just like every step is a chore.
So you have to go now and set up the first Mars soccer team.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be cool. Well, Chris, I really appreciate your time, and I know we talked about quite a bit of stuff, but is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get to?
Would you go? Where would you take a suborbital to the moon, to Mars?
I think I would do suborbital and orbital for sure. I would love to go to the moon. My wife and I celebrated our 25th year marriage anniversary this year, and I told everybody that our 50th one is going to be on the moon, so stay in good shape.
Sounds like a very good plan.
Yeah. But Mars, I think that'd be cool. I don't know. I want to say yes. I would also like to be a success story about it too. So that's the challenging part.
So yeah, especially if they could get the transit times down, but the faster you accelerate to get there, the more you have to decelerate once you get there. So it would be nice if they could get the transit times down, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, but the other thing is, it's like being cramped in an airline seat versus being in like this very luxurious ocean liner. I mean, so they could go that direction too, where like the trip itself is actually even better than the destination.
That's true. But that would require a lot of space, a lot of resources and stuff. And, you have to really manage your systems on a long flight like that. Hopefully it'd at least be like being on a long road trip with some friends or something like that.
Apparently there's a way that you can create something that kind of intersects the Earth and Mars orbit regularly, and it just cycles between them.
Yeah, I want to say Buzz Aldrin wrote a book on that. I haven't read it. I think I have it, but I've got a stack of books I'm behind on reading. But yeah, I think he actually did that. There's a certain way, if you constantly have like an orbit going between the two, you can keep it as short as possible. But I think even the shortest is 3 months or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I understand. Like, yeah, exactly. But I mean, like you said, the faster you go, the more energy you need to slow down. So, if we could solve that problem, we get there in whatever time we want, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, the being with other people for that long, that's already been proven we could do that on the ISS because the crews stay up there longer than 3 months. So if you would have at least that much space for people to kind of get their own private corner and things like that when they need to be, alone and stuff, I think it's quite doable.
Yeah, and not even the ISS, but submarines. You gotta.
Yeah, that's another valid point, and that's even more cramped than the ISS, I think, because you don't have the advantage of microgravity.
And maybe more stressful in some ways. You can't even look out and see the Earth. You're like underneath, tons and tons of water.
Yeah, but you could also go, everything outside the ship wants to kill me. So
yes, exactly. The gigantic squids, the crushing ocean pressure and stuff like that.
Or the cold vacuum of space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, thank you so much, and I really so glad you responded. This is definitely was a close call.
All right, glad to be of help. Make sure you get one for tomorrow.
Thank you so much. Yeah, actually, I got one scheduled already for tomorrow. So
perfect. Well, you're today, my tomorrow, because I'm in the past. Okay. All right. Have a good night.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, have a good night.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.